Therapists are prone to burnout, and highly sensitive therapists even more so. I'm an experienced clinical psychologist, and I love what I do. But I burned out. And in this video, I'm going to share my story of how I burned out badly. Burnout happened to me after about 5 years of doing clinical assessment and therapy in the public health system in South Africa. By now, I'm an experienced clinical psychologist who doesn't outwardly flinch, but on a daily basis, I'm exposed to the kind of horror that you cannot make up. There are a lot of things that are hard, but probably the worst for me is the children, because they're helpless and they have no advocates and no resources. My longer term therapy clients are my savior because I get to see them get better, and that is incredibly rewarding. But most of the people that I see once and will never see again. I'm stationed in a small town in South Africa. It's a seaside town and it's beautiful. And I work in the only outpatient psychiatric clinic for the entire town, the surrounding areas, and in fact for quite a large part of the region. And I'm in my clinic for about 2 or 3 days a week. And 2 days a week, I travel to clinics in other areas and try to see as many patients as I can. Most of the time, I manage without an interpreter, even though the majority of my patient caseload speaks a different language from me. I work in all kinds of strange places. Sometimes I see patients in a storeroom, sometimes in an outside shed, wherever I can find a space. Ideally with a door that closes, but sometimes without a door. I arrive at a clinic and maybe there's 1 or 2 people that I need to see, but sometimes there's a long line of people waiting to see me, and some of them have traveled a far way, especially for this appointment. I have 6 hours at each clinic maximum, and I try to see as many people as I can, knowing that most of them I will never see again. I listen to their story. I try to give them an experience of being heard. I make recommendations based on far too little information, and I try to give each person as much time as possible, but sometimes that's hardly any time at all. Feeling personally in danger has become completely normal for me. I hardly notice it. One day, I'm seeing patients in a church because there was no space for me at the clinic. And there's a long line of patients, and I'm seeing them one at a time and getting through the queue. And suddenly I get a weird feeling. I look up and there's a man advancing on me with clearly evil and sinister intent. Luckily for me, he's also so drunk he can barely stand upright. I have no idea what it is that he wants to do to me, what it is that he wants to take from me, but I shout at him, I grab my laptop, and I run out of the church as fast as I can. And I don't even tell anybody what happened. On another day, I'm sitting in my car outside of the regional office where I have a meeting, and I'm taking a moment to eat my lunch and catch my breath, when suddenly I hear a tap, tap, tapping sound at my window. I look, and there's a man motioning for me to open the window or open the door. I look around me and I realize that I am surrounded. There are 4 or 5 men stationed around my car, and I don't know what they want with me, but I know that whatever it is, it's not good. Luckily, my car is running and my doors are locked. I slam my car into reverse and zoom out of the parking with no care for safety, and I actually drive over somebody's foot as I exit, and I peel out of there, and I'm petrified and I'm relieved, but at the same time, this is not the first time that this kind of thing has happened to me. I don't tell anyone, because who am I going to tell, and what are they going to do about it anyway? Every Monday I start my week by going to the hospital that is attached to my psychiatric clinic and seeing all the people who tried to suicide over the weekend. And I assess them, often in a very short time, depending on how many of them there are, to see if they're safe to discharge or if I need to admit them. But because of the lack of resources, I generally can't admit them, even if I don't think they're safe. I recommend that they see the psychiatrist. I ask them to come back and see me for a follow-up, but most of them I never ever see again. And I just hope that they're going to be okay. Every day, I hear the most awful stories of pain and despair, and it kind of mounts up. One of my longer-term therapy clients attempts suicide, and this is a huge blow. Another one dies by anorexia, and I find it really difficult to process, never mind to recover. I don't talk about my work to other people. I don't tell these stories. I'm in weekly supervision, but I use the time to do case management. I have so many questions. I need help with so many issues. I don't talk about how I'm feeling and what I'm going through. Part of me is scared that if I do, I'm going to be labeled as incompetent and possibly worse. The hardest thing for me is that I can't see a light at the end of the tunnel. There are too many people and too many problems and too few resources. I start to see myself as a temporary plug in a broken system that's full of far too many holes. In my last year of working, I start to sink deeper and deeper into quite a pit of helplessness and futility and despair. Weirdly, it's not my job that finally cracks me. Some truly horrible stuff happens in my personal life, and it's all too much. I get sick. I get seriously sick, and I get admitted to hospital. When I'm discharged from hospital, I'm unable to function. I don't go back to therapy. I don't go back to work. I can't. I resign. I sell everything. I leave my house, my job, my life. I leave South Africa, and I don't go back for many years. Instead, I travel. I re-enter personal therapy online, and I look for a different direction, a different path to take for my life. I begin to heal. It takes time, but I do recover, and therapy begins to call to me again, and I end up entering private practice in Dubai. When I look back on this whole experience, I acknowledge that it was hard. But what made it so much harder was the fact that I had no idea how to protect myself as a person and as a therapist. In my next video, I'll talk about some important lessons that I learned from this experience and strategies that I currently use to protect myself against burnout.